by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a councilman or citizen so requests. Item A, approve agenda as submitted. Item B, receive and place on file all notices pertaining to this meeting. And item C, receive and place on file all materials having any bearing on this meeting. Anybody want anything pulled up? Seeing none, Mr. McLean.
I move the items listed under the consent agenda be approved, accepted, and ratified as presented.
Second.
Gentlemen, your vote, please. And that passes 8-0. Work session, we don't have any public hearings. We don't have any resolutions. There's no ordinances. Anybody here to want to speak on behalf of the public forum? Okay. Now we're going to move on to discussion reports. We have two tonight. The first one is an update on the PinPoint fiber project. They're here working in the city of Beatrice so we can actually have high-speed internet. And Tom, I just met you tonight. I'm glad you're here, and thank you for making the trip from Cambridge, right?
Yep.
All right. I will turn it over to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Actually, I'm glad that we can make a presentation as we're getting updates as we go through. Obviously, I know there's been a lot of questions to council members. I know that Bob and myself and my team have had a few questions and a few concerns that are out there. Wanted to kind of give everybody a high level kind of where we're at, what we've done so far, and where we're going to continue to go through the project. So, as you guys know and voted, and we appreciate the partnership that we've gone through with the city on this project. And we kind of started this probably 3 months ago. We've got a kind of a timeline that we'll have it substantially complete by the end of March of next year is what the game plan is. Right now, construction looks to be on target to be fairly close to the end of the year, that we'll have a lot of this stuff out of our way. Obviously, construction is painstaking at times. It does create questions and concerns of citizens that we've got in the market, but rest assured we're doing everything that we possibly can to mitigate those concerns that are out there and trying to take care of any complaints that we get readily and quickly. So I'm just going to step you through a map that I've got up on the wall over the overall project and then kind of give you an idea of where we're at. So when we build a network, we're building them by what we call neighborhoods or fiber hoods. So we call them in fiber hoods. It gives us a breakdown of areas to focus that we can build on. Some require undergrounding, which is a majority of where those concerns come from. And then we've got a fair amount that are aerial as well. So we're utilizing the pole infrastructure, the right-of-way, and the easements that we have. And I think that may be part of understanding what easements and those things are is kind of what stems from a lot of the questions that we get. But right now, this is what our map looks like if we have it divided out into, I think, 12 or 14 fiber hoods is what we've got. And currently, that green one that you see to the bottom right, that is pulled out as a completed construction. So we've got everything cleaned up. We've got all the underground done. We've got all the aerial strand done. We've got all the fiber placement done. What we don't have done in there is a separate piece, which is called splicing, which is where we take the fiber, put it all together, make it all tie in together to come back to the central office. Our central office, for everybody's information, is partnered in the Diller CO, which is on the west or east side of town, just east of the school, of the high school. So we come in on 136 and feed everything, and then we take a ring around the community, and I'll be able to show you that as well. But each one of these fiber hoods is a work in progress, right? So if we look at, if I shut this up, fiber hood 1 is this one, which is complete. As we look at our schedule, our next one we're going to be working on is 9 and then 10. So 9 and then 10 and then 12. Those are the ones that are right now we're working on. Either A, we've gotten permitting done with the city, or B, we're going to be very close to permitting. I think on Fiberhead 12 we're getting that one prepared. But so those are in progress that we'll be working through in the very near future, and probably get completed with those in the September timeframe. I think September, early October. And then the next ones after that would be Fiberhood 2, which is the south portion here. And then we've got Fiberhood 5 is the next slate that we'll be doing. So that's the breakdown of the kind of the near work schedule that we have. After that, everything else, we'll have a new schedule that comes up because we've got 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 13, 14, and 11 that are not shown here yet. But these are immediates, probably within the next 90 days. We'll have they'll come off as fairly complete as we go. So we started with the backbone, which the backbone is kind of the key to all of those fiber hoods. So the fiber hoods are what we call distribution. The backbone progress, all of this will tie together into a ring. And part of the arrangement with the city was to provide dark fiber to the substations of the city power infrastructure so that they had fiber connectivity, could tie it all the way back into and be able to monitor and do a bunch of things. And in addition to services to several other locations that are in our distribution network. So this backbone is what we focused on right now. And this backbone is 50% complete. So there's 12 sections that we broke it down into. 6 of those are completed. And I anticipate in the next month, we'll have all of those, probably month and a half, we'll have all of that completed. There is some underground in there, but most of that is an aerial platform that we're doing. So the build goes relatively quick. We've got some county permits that we're doing on that southwest portion that's kind of brown and then goes to red, kind of right in here. That's a lot of underground there. But so that gives you kind of an idea of what we're doing. And so with this, every location that's inside of the city limits will have multi-gig capabilities. So Beatrice will be our first community to get up to the 2.5 gig product. So normally we've been going into the market with a 1 gig product. This is going to be our first unique market of going into a 2.5 gig market. So gamers, businesses, we can do 10 gig to businesses. We can do a lot of different things that's going to come, and it's a purely 100% fiber network that we're building. So, just to give the breadth of it, there's roughly 6,000 homes we calculated-ish in the community, and we're going to have this thing hopefully built within a year. And we're hopefully, cross my fingers that things keep progressing the way they are. I told these guys today that my anticipation is that we'll be turning up those first customers probably in Fiberhood 1, probably in early September. So we'll start to get some real, positive of that. We started in that area, which is a challenging area, a lot of underground. But we wanted to get that stuff out of the way because that generally takes the longest to get accomplished anyways. And we're trying to race to the winner as we go. So we don't want to get locked out and push us out any longer. We want to hit this as fast as we can because we believe that speed and efficiency will win the war in the long run, as well as taking care of our customers and responding to these concerns that are out there. So that's why, obviously, I'm here in front of you guys, is to help educate and answer questions on what we're doing and how we can help, and trying to be the real good stewards of the game and not be like a traditional carrier that maybe comes into the community and just tears things up and walks away. So that's not us. So I guess I'll open it up to questions and see what I can field, and if I've got any. Yeah.
I just want to give you a compliment. I had a gentleman call me, and he was concerned that you had marked out a place in his yard. It's out by Astro Park. And he was very concerned about that box being there. He's really picky on his yard.
Sure.
I gave him the information to contact your company. He called me today to thank me, and I'll thank you, because you moved it across the street to Astro Park.
Yeah.
And he made him very, very happy.
Great.
So I just want to let you know that.
Yeah, and we try and I appreciate that. Thanks, because not every day do we get compliments about how that works. Everybody seems to have their ideas, but we try to. There is some flexibilities in our design. So the design that I put up here isn't perfect. We know that. We do it from a desktop, and then we do a walkout as we're doing it. We come up with a lot of those things that, that box is there, or we had this as PEDs, and it's actually in the front of people's yards, and we're saying, nah, we're going to put those in a ground level box, so it's not an eyesore. There are areas that we will do PEDs. They're generally in rear easements that already have PED infrastructure with them, but there are ones that are aesthetic that we want to make sure we're putting in a ground level box so people can't see them, and over time those grow in. Just like moving it across the street doesn't really do anything to our design, but it makes that customer happy or that person happy, community member happy. That goes a long ways because they're going to tell you, they're going to tell 10 other people that says, hey, you know what, these guys actually care. And our subcontractors are, T&H is our subcontractor, so they've done a lot of work with the city. They do a lot of work in the city, and they have been knocking it out of the park, in my opinion. I think they've done a great job. I'm not saying that every subcontractor is that way, that these guys have done a great job, so
Well, you can pass that on to them too,
I will
because,
do that.
yeah.
Yeah, Robbie and their team has been good.
So they're marking you're putting it in the easement. In my neighborhood, there's no alley, so there's an easement where the alley would be. But everything that I see marked today, that I saw marked today, is in everyone's front yard. So is it going in where the alley easement is, or are you digging in the front yards?
Some there's a front easement on the street side.
There's an easement. There's an easement in the front and the back.
And back. So, yeah, it depends on the situation, right? So not every location, like if there's two easements, we do have some that are front entrance, but we do have some that are back entrance.
So if it's marked in the front yard, you digging in the front yard?
Yes.
Okay. So punch that in, or how?
They bore that. So they'll use a directional bore. So they'll dig a pit.
Yep.
They will drill it in.
Okay. I know how it works.
Yep, they'll pull duct and we're good.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yep.
I just need to be able to explain it to them when they ask.
yeah.
So if the sign in your front yard says vault,
Yep.
you're getting a box.
You're getting a box. And it'll be a ground level box. It won't be a PED.
Dwayne, I don't want a vault in my front yard. Can you get it moved?
Can you get that moved next to his neighbor's house?
Yeah, there's a stake in my front yard, and I think it said flower pot on it.
Yep, which will be a smaller vault. It's smaller than a vault. So a vault is 24 by 36. The flower pots, I believe, are 15 by 18 or something like that. 15 by 20.
How do you get from these flower pot or vault or whatever to the house?
So we will come in and plow a drop with either we call it a line ward, or depending on the size of what we got to work with, little hand spaded in to get to there. So, but it'll be a buried drop. If you have a buried box in front of you, you'll have a buried drop to your house. Now, when we come from an aerial perspective, an aerial drop, generally speaking, we will have an aerial. It'll come from the pole to the house.
You didn't happen to bring the stuff with you, did you? Your vault and your flower.
I didn't. But
I just wondered what it's going to look like in my yard, so.
Let me see if I can pull up a picture from.
You said 24 by 36. If you put a vault in a yard that's 24 by 36, that will remain the dimensions that's not mowable.
That box it'll take up that. Yeah, there won't be grass there. There won't be grass over the
How
top.
tall is it?
It's ground level, so you'll be able to mow right over the top of it. It won't suck the lid off of it or anything. You'll be able to go just like a sprinkler box.
That and a flower pot.
So,
I just have the flower pot in mine.
You could probably,
if
could probably
you
move
drive
yours
through
to
the country
west,
club
that's
area, you can see the size of the vault and the size of the
that?
flower. You drive through the country club area, or if you go to the Board of Public Works, one of our members, Steve Hartley, he's on the corner of 19th and Oak. He's got 2 vaults in his yard the way it fell, and you can see the size of them. I mean, they're not small, but I think the one thing that I didn't fully understand until I visited Board of Public Works in Tobias a little bit is that right-of-way extends quite a ways into people's yards.
Yeah.
Because for him, he says, well, gee, it's not. I was thinking naively that it's that little piece of ground between the sidewalk, but it's not.
Nope.
Yeah. So they've done a good job. I know in our area there's a couple sprinkler systems that got hit. TH did a good job of coming back around. Plus, I didn't understand this till a little bit later. The guy that's driving the white Dodge Dually, that's the only way I know I can explain it. He carries that equipment with him, and so if there's a sprinkler that's hit, he can just fix it right there on the spot. So.
And we are adjusting kind of our door knocker. So every time that those guys go into a neighborhood, they're putting a hang up on the door that has TH's information, our information, marketing information. we are mixing some of that in because we want to make sure that customers are calling us if they have dog fences, sprinkler systems, so that T&H can know that, and then instead of hitting a sprinkler system, they can kind of be aware that it's there and deal with it prior to hitting it.
So is there a number that you could email us that we could give to all the council members? That's the best number to give out to customers?
Yeah. Yep.
I think that would help, other than getting you bombarded with 25 emails.
Yep.
If we would have that number, if Ted has a person who's got a problem, it'd be nice to have that phone number that you say, here, call.
Yeah, my wife's going to call you. So, so let me ask you the question. So, behind my house, where there's no alley, the phone company has lines, cable television has lines, city has lines, gas lines are in there, Black Hills Energy is in there. Everybody's in there, but you're not going in there. You're going to dig in my front yard instead. Mm-hmm. Is there a reason?
There's no room in that easement, probably, would be my assumption. Because of clearance with gas, clearance with power, and the amount of stuff that's in that back easement, there just isn't any room.
That's common with right-of-ways and easements, especially the right-of-way. That's one that we're familiar with.
Yeah.
When you figure the separation between water lines and all that stuff, you start to just run out of space.
My neighbors are going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Sure, absolutely.
And sometimes if you look at power poles and you go, why don't they go on the power poles? And you start looking at all the stuff that's on there, they're overbuilt. The electric department starts to get boxed out and they can't get to their own lines, and without putting taller poles in, which is expensive and takes a long time.
We try not to be different all of that time, right? Sometimes there's just no other way to deal with it, so we try.
Just asking.
Yeah, no,
And that's why they're here. We figured might as well just get the same message.
So it appears that in our cul-de-sac or our little loop, the main one's going to go on our side of the street, but then there is a little bit on the other side. Do we bore under the street then? Okay.
Yep.
That'll be the next question I have to get answered.
Yeah, we bore under the street. Everything underground is being bored on a mainline situation. The only thing that's not being bored, and some will be, is drops. So everything mainline that our subcontractors are doing right now is all bored underground with duct.
Did you guys just do this from some kind of a drone shot or something like that?
We start with Google Earth.
I just wonder, like I said, you're going to put something in my front yard, you're going to put something in my front yard because it's in the easement and I can't stop that, and I understand that. But there's an empty lot across the street from my house. I just wondered why, if you're going to bore into the street for part of this, why that isn't in the empty lot instead of in my yard, but you do you, man.
I can ask the question.
That's all right.
I mean, we can ask the question to T&H and see if there's a better way. Like I said, it's a flexible conversation.
Yeah.
And so what's
No, I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm just asking you
Sounds like it to me.
I said, if you're going to put one of these in somebody's yard, make sure it's in my yard, not my neighbor's.
what's the address?
2211 Grant.
2211 Grant.
Yeah.
How about we take a look at it and okay, we'll take a look at it and see what we
Yeah,
can do.
if you're going to put one of those in somebody's yard, it should go in my yard, not my neighbor's yard.
Put 3 of them in Dave's.
I'm just saying.
I have 3.
I got some questions that are not installation
Just bored in front of the
related.
yard done to mine.
So we know that the whole television world, or flat screen world, or whatever you want to call it, is kind of leaving the whole cable and environment.
Mm-hmm.
Half a gig for somebody who streams movies. Good start?
Yeah,
Okay.
you'll be just fine.
You talked about a router that you furnish. Is it a wireless router, or do you still need to go out and buy like a Nighthawk or something else
No,
to
we
increase?
we have both, so you can do either way.
Okay.
Right? We don't pigeonhole you into one way or the other.
Okay.
We sell a product that's a Wi-Fi managed product with it, or like that comes with it. And I think, Pam, correct me if I'm wrong. Are we including that in the price? Okay.
I think it's maybe a Plume is what it is.
Yeah, it's called Plume.
Yeah.
And what it is it's a Wi-Fi 6 router.
Okay.
And so and then it's got pods off of it that will, take care of all of your extended needs that you need.
Right.
So your speeds, it'll all be, by the size of your house will determine how many of those you need. And so we put those in. So
Okay.
Yep.
And you do the installation in the home?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
When we walk away, your devices should all be connected and ready to
working.
go.
Okay. So do you furnish an email address?
We do not do email.
Okay, all right.
So
But it, I guess if somebody was going to move, they want to make sure that whatever, I mean,
we can.
in the real world, you're not gonna, if you have a Windstream account and you move off, they're probably not gonna keep your email.
Correct. Most of the time, what we do is we say, maybe transition to a Gmail instead of being tied into your carrier's version. We used to do email a lot, and from our perspective, it's been, let's get you to Gmail. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to do it, and it's the same system that we would run. So our old email platform is a Gmail platform masked with a different PNPT address.
Okay,
So it's really you're getting a better performance directly with that.
okay, very good.
2 weeks.
Very good.
So,
And what I heard you say, of course, since Terry and I are in the right neighborhood, I guess, because they started in our neighborhood, we might have access by the first part of September.
that's what I'm hoping.
Okay.
If all my plans come together in the way, and
We won't hold you to that.
I'm holding myself accountable on that one, Bob.
Okay.
So I was playing with my internet for some reason, it wasn't working. And I think I heard it answer, but when you go into the home, you tell the homeowner, okay, like I got 3 fire sticks upstairs, I got 5 TVs downstairs, you need a booster down here, whole ball of wax.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so the reason we use Plume is we didn't used to use it, and about 2 years ago, I think 2.5 years ago, we put it in. And we were getting a ton of speed complaints, and we had no visibility into why these speed complaints were coming. And it wasn't. We would test at our ONT. Everything tested out fine. Everything spurred from Wi-Fi speed troubles inside of the home. The Plume product for us allows our technicians to see devices, strength levels, what they're doing, are they dropping, being able to test that so that we don't always have to disrupt customers' lives and get into the home and say, oh, well, I got to do this or got to do that, and then it impacts the customer experience on the other end. We can see all that stuff from behind the scenes to say, okay, your Fire Stick upstairs has a low signal issue. We probably need to get better Wi-Fi coverage in there or whatever it is. That's why we're doing the Plume stuff that we do. It was a cost that we added, but we bear a lot of that, and we try to make it happen as much as we can. But it had mitigated a ton of troubles for us that weren't necessarily our trouble. It was really consumer driven, but they're all become our troubles at that point in time. So that's how we had to deal with that.
You send out automatic updates and firmware to
Yep.
Plume then?
Yep, that all takes care of itself. It optimizes itself in the home. So if one's stronger than the other, it keeps optimizing itself as we go.
So when you move into a neighborhood like you're working on, do you have a sales staff that goes in then that provides the fee schedules and explains everything to the homeowner?
Yep, we'll have somebody come in. We'll do some door-to-door work. We'll do regular marketing work. We're going to do obviously our office up here on North 6th Street that we bought. That'll be open. We'll be working that down so people will be able to come in, pay their bill, talk to a customer service rep. So we're kind of spinning that up as we go, but yeah.
Are you price competitive with the other people in the market then in Beatrice? Okay.
I would say very competitive.
Okay.
And we don't like, so when you're signing up, year 1 is going to be the same as year 2. So not year 1 and then double year 2.
Yeah.
So.
That never goes good.
Yeah. No, the churn at year 13 month is, you don't want to, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to explain that to my board.
Yeah.
So.
So, Tom, Pam, I've called you a couple of times, and I just wanted to thank you for getting things done that we talked about. I appreciate that. Most of them, well, I haven't got a ton, okay, I'm not going to exaggerate. There's like 3 emails I've got, all been aesthetic related, and I wasn't here when you cut the deal with the city. Can you tell the press so that people know what you do when you dig your hole and put your piece of equipment in there, and then we've got dirt after that? And I mean, do you guys put sod in there? Do you do seed? Do you just go that's up to the property owner after that? Explain that, will you, please?
So when we come in, obviously they drill, they dig a hole out. To put the box in, they got to excavate that out so that we can put our splicing case in that box. When we get done with that, they backfill it, they pack it in, they put the lid on it, they rake it out, and then they'll plant it back to seed. So we plant it back to seed. That's our initial. Hopefully it sticks. Usually we can tell that what's going to happen. If it doesn't come up, right, in those situations, we'll come back. If that doesn't come up, then we work with our subcontractor to say, what are our options?
Right.
Do we need to just deal with it and lay sod back down, or how do we want to do that? We try to bring it back as best as we can. The majority of them, they take well with seed because generally they're in areas that are getting watered, it's growing, and things like that. So that's what we do, is we try to get it seeded first, get it back to where as close to what it was before. Obviously, there's a box there now, so that's going to be different. But yeah, so I mean, we try to. But if in extenuating circumstances, we had one where the subcontractor left a tarp on too much on the grass, that's going to pose a problem. So we're going to replace that, I think. So everyone's a little different in those situations. Sure. We talk to our subcontractors about where do you leave your dirt, where do you leave your tarps, and most of those times they're really good about it. But sometimes you get a crew in there that loses their brain for a day or two, and next thing you know something's there. And the process too. One of the concerns that we had from somebody, I don't remember which one it was so there was a box. We're here. They were gone for a couple days, then they come back. In that situation, what they do is they do a portion of work, and then maybe the vault didn't get placed because they have a different set of guys that come in and place that vault. And then when that gets placed, and so we try to keep that as tight as possible, but sometimes it can be a day or two before that. So one was the conversation like, well, I have this vault. The vault is just sitting here. Those guys were here the other day, but they haven't been back yet. Well, yeah, they'll be back. And so, but we try to take all those conversations that we're getting, Terry, from the we're taking those and going. Jason's going directly to Robbie, and he's going directly to his subs and taking care of those as fast as we can. As we get them, we try to deal with them right out of the gate.
And I'm sorry, I can't remember, but Jason, you got the other one. Yeah. I asked through Pam to have some people appear so I got the whole neighborhood kind of together. And he and another gentleman came over, explained the whole process. They did exactly what they said they were going to do, and went around before a minute was by, went around and had things on everybody's door. So that went exactly the way it was supposed to go. So I appreciate that.
That's what we try to do. We try to communicate as much as possible and head off the issues where they do come up. But we liken it to, we always end up taking out somebody's best flowers that they've always had, and we try to avoid that. But if we have to, we'll try and get that back to rectify it the right way. So we don't want to leave it a sour taste in people's mouth.
Yep.
So like when you finish, the first section or whatever, you actually blow the fiber in the casing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's ready to go.
Yep. And so, in Fiberhood 1, I believe it's all blown in there.
Right. And, just as a side note, fiber's really hard to splice. So if it gets broken, it's no fun. We've had, in my previous life, I've had an electrician who cut the fiber out of the college instead of the right cord. And it was expensive to fix, so.
Yep. It is not a cheap endeavor to repair it. We try to. And this won't be the last time that, as we go through and do construction, if somebody else is doing something, we file locates. So people file locates in the community. So we'll mark that, those cables as people say, hey, I'm putting in a fence. So if somebody's coming in and putting in a fence, we're going to mark our lines so that we can prevent for that getting hit again in the future. Just because we don't want to take out the whole neighborhood for one guy's fence.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, other questions? Okay, Pam, Jason, Tom, thank you.
Thank you,
Jason
guys.
knows who my son is, so I have to be careful.
Yeah. we just hang up there nice. And I told him to make sure you don't get on him too much.
And did he remind you that I got on him a lot growing up? So he knows what to expect. Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
And Ted, we'll get back with you guys.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you're gonna put that in somebody's yard, put it in mine. Don't put it in one of my neighbors. A lot easier to explain to my wife than just to them. I'm just saying.
and by the way, we do thank you. It is important to, I think, everybody up here and to the city that there is a local presence. I mean, having the building here and having access, certainly when you don't have a representative in town, you have to run to Lincoln to get anything taken care of. It's a pretty big inconvenience, and it is a strong selling point, so thank you.
Yeah, and that's, we do this in a lot of other smaller towns, and Beatrice's size for us is like a Lincoln to Aloe. How about that? So for us, Beatrice is, in my world, the main focus of what we've got going on right now. Jason and I had that conversation today. We're here to stay. We want to be a part of the community. We do that in all of our small towns, and we expect to do nothing different than that. So I will add, just so everybody's in the loop, is if you might get questions, because we have had questions about this before, and knowing there are certain things that are going on in Gage County that are with other providers that are not us, we have filed a couple applications in the state grant funding world to kind of expand a little bit outside of the edges. So one of them is into the northeast part of the community. If you go out north of the new middle school, there's some houses that are up in that neck of the woods. We've put an application in for those, and then also the stuff that's going down 77 to the dump, that area for the city. We've kind of broadened that into an application as well. So, hoping that all things go as we think they might go, hopefully we'll be able to get some grant money to help pay for that build out for some of those community members that are on the edge. So they show up as unserved, underserved, and that's a big deal for us. And we've had a pretty good successful run as a company on several different applications in the state. I think we're into about 10 million over the last 4 years in grant money that we've done in rural areas. So we feel like we got a pretty good plan in place for that, and a good track record of performance on that. So hopefully we'll know in December, I think, mid-December on those. But we're trying to do as much as we can. Goal one is to get everything in the city done. So
Perfect.
we're excited to be here, and I thank everybody for their time.
Well, thank you, Megan, for the trip. And,
no problem.
I think if everybody's good, I'm good.
Yeah. And if you guys have questions, feel free to contact us. We'll get that number to Tobias, and he can distribute all that stuff out.
Yep.
We can even send over some business cards of people if they stop in the city offices and have questions, or you guys get any of that stuff. We're here to please and get things accomplished on a positive note, and not leave a negative taste. So
Very good. All right. Thank you.
No, thank you guys.
That's what I said. You didn't hear me. No. I said, just move it to your neighbors to the west. He don't care. You can. I approve that move. Yeah, move it from his yard to the west. That's my brother's yard. He won't care.
What's the address?
He don't like mowing.
It'd be 511 Bellwood.
Yeah, move it to 509 Bellwood.
Bellwood?
Yeah.
511 Bellwood.
If we're asking for favors.
No, we're not doing favors.
care now.
We're
He's gonna move.
going to analyze. We're going to analyze and see what we can do.
Might want to make a
Okay.
phone call.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
I ain't worried about him.
Okay.
The less we mow, the better.
Moving on the work session, we have an update from the city council committees. I think all three have met, and, just kind of a little 5-minute rendition or 3-minute rendition of where we're at and the future. So who wants to start?
Gary does.
Gary.
Okay.
We'll start with Gary.
Thanks, guys.
I was there, I know what it was.
Well, I'll go on anyway. We reviewed the city codes regarding the nuisance section. We discussed how the definitions in 17-181 and 17-182 work together. Reviewed how the notice is served. Although 17184 allows the city to enforce nuisance items within 2 miles of the city limits, that has not been the practice, and I don't see us as probably having a desire to go outside our city limits. I think that was a consensus with Tobias, Taylor, and Rich and myself. We talked about the height of weeds and grass, and I just coming down here tonight, several places popped right up. They're very much out of the compliance we have now, which is 12 inches, and we want to look at maybe changing that. We reviewed the appeal timeline that's set out in 17187. The city administration advised that most of the nuisance sections had not been revised since the 1970s and proposed a general cleanup of those. Tobias and Taylor said that it's something they wanted to do, and now that we've got the committee and maybe help them along a little bit, I think we can make that happen. Let's see here. We discussed increasing the appeal fee for weeds. The fee today is $100, so we probably want to look at that. We then discussed we went through all the parts of that nuisance ordinance, and some of the things I think Tobias and Taylor would agree. There's things in place. Sometimes when people get a notice of some of this stuff and they get in the court systems, that tends to gum up the works. And I don't know what we do about that. If we can do anything about it, but we can sure push some of this and probably set higher limits on the penalties, things like that. We then went on to discuss the junk vehicles ordinances, reviewed the definitions, and discussed how they're applied. The city administration is going to review one of the ordinances to clarify that the time frame does not restart within a year of notice has been provided. We discussed if there should be a limit on the number of vehicles allowed on a property. We discussed if the hobbyist and race car permits should be eliminated, and if it's possible to increase criminal fees for junk vehicles, which I think it is, and we may want to look at doing that. The action items that we paid attention to is the city administration is going to prepare a revised draft of the nuisance codes for our purview and kind of see what we want to do with that. The city administration is going to review 16-23.1 regarding the time frame for notice on a junk vehicle to try to speed up the process on that. And the city administration is going to research possible criminal fees for junk vehicles. And we also did, it's not on here, but we did talk about chickens and dogs. So that's kind of a review of what we did. Tobias or Taylor, Rich, you got anything to add?
Pretty much.
I'd like to have another meeting rather soon than later, because we want to keep moving this along. I don't think we want to let it lay and, get gummed up in the little stuff when we're looking at the big stuff. So if you got any questions, if Rich and Tim are available one day this week, I can't do it on Friday, but maybe Wednesday after dinner or...
Wednesday would be the best day for me.
I can do it.
Wednesday is?
Yeah.
How about 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
Dave? Good enough. And if you got any questions about that, if you look through these two ordinances, just kind of jot down what you question and we can go through it. Probably won't take that long. And I don't know if you guys can help me with this, but when we get these two done, and it's not going to be like immediate, but we want to do it pretty soon. What the next part of the ordinance we want to work on may be the right-of-way stuff. That's probably won't be quite as difficult as this because there's already ordinances in place. And I think that our administration has a pretty good handle on that already. But we maybe just want to look at that. And if there's anything we want to review, then we can do it at that time. I'm just trying to look forward down the road and next steps. So, all right.
You're just coming over to me. So I'm Dempsters. So Gary and Terry are on the committee with me. We've met just a couple of times. Of course, the field trip we had that everybody went to the site was really kind of eye-opening. But we met with Chet and Tobias and got an overview, so everybody was on the same page. What's happened over the last 7 years to bring us to this point. And we asked Tobias and Chet for the they're kind of what their low-hanging fruit would be, that their first 3 or 4 things that they could think of that we need to address immediately. And then after we met with them, the 3 of us actually met with Taryn Horn. She is with NEED, Nebraska Energy and Environment Department. And her supervisor, and then, I can't pronounce the guy's last name, but he was from the EPA. Malik? Can you?
Kirk.
I didn't bring Kirk.
Yeah.
Kirk's Mammoth, it's something like
Yeah, I can't predict, yeah. Anyway, so we met with a guy from the EPA that does our area, and Taryn, who oversees the Brownfield grant, which is a federal grant for industrial cleanups, and then her supervisor. She actually this week gave a presentation at the National Brownfield Convention about Dempsters. So she has a real soft spot for it. But as we met with her, basically the thing that I wanted to know is what the starting point would be. How do we get from point A, where we're at, to point W over here with it, that at the end of this thing. And we spent about an hour and a half with the 3 of them, and they really had a lot of information. And as I sat through there, I kept thinking, okay, that's where we start. And then somebody else would speak, and I said, oh, that's where we start. And then someone else speak, okay, you got to have this done before you start over here. So, but they have provided us with an enormous amount of information. One of the files that she sent yesterday, the day before, Tobias is going to have to print off for me. It wouldn't download in my little city laptop. It was too big. And I can't open it, so haven't been able to read that. But we're going to meet after to get this little bit of information, and Terry and Gary will get that. We'll review all that. We're going to meet one more time here this next week or the week after, hopefully, depending on these guys' schedules. And then we should meet one more time after that. We're going to condense this, get a scope of work. To apply for the grants that are both in the state and the federal level, we have to provide them with what we're going to do, how the work is going to progress from here through the process until it's done, and then at the end of it, working backwards forward, they want to know what we're going to do with the property after it's done. I'll add one more thing in it, and then if you guys have some questions, I'll try to answer it. But I did ask of the EPA guy if we had to dig it up. There's a couple of basements in there that I wasn't aware of. And he said, you can't hold him to it, but he said there's a possibility that you can fill it in and seal it and cap it. And I said, similar to what we do at the landfill? He says, very similar. And so, but there's a lot of things we can do, a lot of things we can't do, but we can't do anything until we own it. And so one of the things that I hope the committee will bring back to you guys at the council is that the next budget, you put some money into the budget, so because we have to own it to control it. And there's some big federal dollars out right now. They're going to go away in the next 2 years. They've been in place about a year and a half, so they'll spend the next 2. But they're offering up to $2 million in cleanup dollars, just to clean up the site. And so, but we are going to need a new phase 1 study. There's some little cost in that. We'll get somewhere along the line here. We're going to have to hire a consultant, because as knowledgeable as the 3 of us are now, we still don't have the ability to consult to the rest to the city to what happens. So, but that's where we're at. So unless you think I left something out, guys, chime in. But if you guys have some questions, let me know.
Go ahead, Gary.
I think the most important thing was the time frame of getting the ownership of that property. That's what stood out to me above everything else. We don't want that to inhibit us. And time's kind of important in this to apply for them to try to help us achieve those grants that we want.
What's the amount of money to become owners of that property?
That's my question.
I believe that in order to purchase the back taxes, you're somewhere about $50,000.
So you might spend $50,000 to get it up to a $2 million grant, but there's no.
Oh, I don't have a problem with it. I get tired of looking at it.
Well, it's a big site. I mean, this is, but when I spoke with her this week, and she sent me the other thing, Taryn. When I spoke with her, part of what you're going to get from us on the site thing is not going to be exactly what there was K-State University had a proposal and said this is, they gave us a couple of options. We need to be a little broader than that. They are looking for, it will help our grant application if it has kind of a multiple use thing. So if you have a spot that's just native grass, if you have a spot that's recreation, if you have a spot that's green space, if you have a spot that, could multiple use on the site, and it's a 17-acre site, we should be able to do that. So, but that's what I got. So,
Tobias, Ted mentioned $2 million in grants if we were to get them. Can you remind me how much that cleanup was down on right east of the
gas plant?
The gas plant.
The gas plant, the city's share of that was right about $1.75, $2 million, somewhere right in there, and we covered 25% of the cost.
Okay.
So $500,000.
So hopefully there's nothing down there. You have punched holes, but
Well, the last phase one study was done in 2019, and the first one that I could find was done in 2004. So we've had several of them, and every time, and I could read them wrong, but every time I've looked at these, there seems to be less and less in the studies. But as Tobias can explain to you, what the state used to be, that used to allow for asbestos removal, because there's state grants for that, but they've lessened the amount that they're allowing for that. But there's not a. This is a separate site. You can apply for grants for each site, and this thing is essentially 8 different sites because it's 8 different pieces of property, and you can break it up in several different ways. But they did tell us that some of the buildings we can tear down as long as we mitigate that. As like you have the fire department or something, keep it hosed down while you're knocking it down. So that you don't have dust. I mean, there's a lot of things that we'll bring to you, but it seemed everything that from talking to Tobias and to Chet and from talking to them at the state, I felt it was mostly good news. The grant up to $2 million, you can apply for it every year. If we owned it today, we could have applied within the next 30 days. And it would have been awarded in the next.
for each site.
For each site,
So you get 16.
you could get up to. You could get up to $6 million.
Now there
You
are
never get that much, but
there are separate buildings on there, aren't they? There's
there's dozens of
So
buildings. They're all
what I was
attached, but
going
I'm
to-
just saying in different. You're never going to get them all, but in real terms, I mean, you could.
But
get-
what I'm asking is, the last time I was down there, and that's been 3-4 years ago, a lot of those buildings are dilapidated down to the point where, is there any possibility that we don't own it, that we could condemn those buildings and go in and clean them out as a city, as unsafe structures?
The property is condemned as of today already.
Yep.
So we could possibly go in and clean some of those buildings out without actually owning it?
You can, yes. It's just a matter of who's paying and will there be any cost reimbursement.
Okay.
All right. Terry?
First, Ted, I thought you did a good job running that meeting. I did. And I've walked away from that meeting with a really positive feeling. I thought it was going to be a total down meeting, but those people were very positive, I thought, on trying to help us, so we'll see. My committee is Dwayne and Mike and Michael out there and Bob and Tobias. Okay, we met 2 times. I think if I don't say this now, I'll forget it. So Tobias, all this stuff that we've been asking you for takes a lot more time. I know this is a whole new deal. Just want you to know we all appreciate it. And James, same with you, buddy. Thank you for the time you spent on getting us all the data. So I want to talk to you, the things that we talked about was the $400,000 grant that we got to decide how we're going to spend that money relatively short period of time here. We talked about 136 bypass, the downtown revitalization project, talked about all types of funding options that were available. If there's any way that we could do a chunk of this without increasing taxes. Michael are working on maybe getting us another meeting, depending on, without trying to get too far ahead of ourselves here, depending on how this comes out with the engineering report and what you guys decide to do with this. Another meeting with maybe the state people, the Department of Transportation people. They're working on that avenue. And we talked about the engineering final design costs on both of them, which are both substantial. Okay, but so we don't go any further than we need to right now. Depending on what you guys end up doing with this tonight and at the August 7 meeting, we're going to come back with a lot more recommendations depending on what ends up happening there, Mayor. But tonight we want to talk to you about the $400,000 grant, all right? We all talked before that we'd like to use that grant downtown someplace on streets, but depending again on what ends up happening with the council, we really can't be doing very much with Market Street. We really can't be doing very much with Court Street because it might not fit into the overall final design plan, because all we have now is conceptual design of both of those entities, both the 136 bypass and the downtown plan that we're going to be talking about tonight later with the engineering firm. So we looked closer at Ella Street. And what we'd like you guys to consider is redeveloping Ella Street between 4th and 5th and 5th and 6th Street. Putting bump outs in it, trees, landscaping, things that would fit into our overall concept of the downtown area. And just knowing that all we're doing again is talking conceptually here. We'd have to have final design. And I've tried to pin James up against the wall on whether he can do that for us or not. And he's been politically correct in saying that he's definitely, there's no question in my mind, he has the ability to do it. It's just that we're asking all these city employees and these department heads to do so many damn different jobs. It's hard telling if he's going to have the ability to allocate the time for him to do that. But we would like you to consider that. And Aaron said everybody got one of these?
Is that in the study?
No.
No, so no, I'm sorry.
Okay, shoot.
It was in the email. I mean, it was in the.
Was it in the stuff that you guys got? This
Well,
little Elva Street thing?
Yeah, all the maps were in your packet.
No. I don't mean this. I mean this, that James did as far as, no.
Nope.
All right. Well, before you get out of here tonight, you're going to have it, okay? All right. So all this was, again, was just conceptual thought as to what we should do with 4th to 5th and 5th to 6th. And you'll have that, but we're talking about changing parking and lanes and bump outs and things that are hopefully would fit into an overall downtown improvement plan. So since you guys don't have a copy of that, maybe we'll just get you a copy and then we can discuss it further in the future. But we didn't see that. We thought that was the best place for the money because the other two streets are really tied up. We've done some things with 5th Street. We've learned some lessons with 5th Street. And we thought we'd look at those two blocks and work it into our overall beautification of downtown. We also think it's important to make sure all the business owners downtown, for whatever reason, may think, because a lot of emphasis has been placed upon what we're contemplating doing on moving Highway 136 to Market Street, that we're just going to do that and that's where we're going to stop. Okay, I think, I'm not speaking for you guys or even trying to, but at least I believe the people I spoke to on the council this is really a total community project. We're not going to do one without the other. Okay, I want everybody to be sure they please understand that. But we do need to go through, if you decide that we're going to need to do this, we'll have to make a decision, make a vote, decide we're going to do it, and then we'll have to decide how we're going to finally design it, or we're going to hire somebody to actually design it for us, let bids this winter or something, and then try to do it next year, because we either have to spend the money or have it contractually obligated or something next year or something, don't we?
Right, you have some
I
time
can't
on that
remember.
grant, but we've got to probably do something within next year to
Yep.
get it obligated.
So we need to move with it. And we just felt that, the committee felt that that was the best use for the money. Yeah.
So what you plan to do on Ellis Street with this $400,000 grant? Is this going to be a kind of a blueprint, or it's going to be similar to what the beautification would be on Market if the other piece gets done? When they get this 2 blocks done, then people are going to be able to say, oh, this is what it's going to look like over here?
That's our goal. Okay.
We thought it'd be
But-
nice to show people what it may look like, so
Yep.
they have an idea. Then if we have to adjust it as we move forward, we go, oh, we shouldn't do that, so.
Okay.
Maybe with some parking and, narrow that street up a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Not at Market Street, would be kind of a smaller version of Court Street.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
And I'm sure all of you realize that if we decide to move 136 to Market, all of a sudden we open up Ella, right? And sometimes it gets forgotten a little bit in this, but we have the ability to do all kinds of things along Ella Street and all the businesses there too, once we move that highway. One final thought, this again may be ahead of itself, but we felt that depending on how you felt about the study tonight, that we would like in the very near future to make a decision on this and have the council look at approving the engineering study, at least conceptually, and pass a resolution telling everybody in the community this is what the hell we're going to do. All right? We've been talking about this for decades. It's time to either make a decision to do it or make a decision not to do it. So we're asking that to be put on the agenda, Mayor, as soon as you feel like it should be on there. I miss anything, guys? Nope. Michael?
No, because I think our main thought was we got to get it approved and get going so we can go to the legislature or the state and see what fundings we have available. And we can't do that if we don't have a go with the city council.
Other Michael? I missed something here, dude? Nope. Okay. Questions by anybody? There's a lot there. There's a lot more than what we've got, okay? But we don't want to get ahead of ourselves either.
Definitely more to come.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. We got through our work session. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I move the meeting be adjourned at 6:56 PM.
Second.
Yeah, sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
And done.